Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I tell.
All right. Well, you heard the man. My name is Mark Eitel, and I am your host for the Mr. Mortgage Show. Thank you so very much for spending a bit of your weekend with us. Yeah, so we talk about mortgages and real estate. We try to put a fun twist on it. But yeah, thanks for joining the Mr. Mortgage Show this beautiful weekend. But as always, you can hit us up on the Anytime hotline at 561-291-8569 with questions or comments. You can either text or call that number. Dom, my producer, is manning that telephone line. That's 561-291-8569. Or, as always, visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. There's never a .com. It's just mr.mortgage. So, yeah, it was another interesting week in real estate, and more especially news in general. And, you know, I'm not big on geopolitics, and I'm not going to pretend to be. I know it's a tragedy what's happening in Ukraine, and I don't know that anyone really imagined this was going to happen. So I just, prayers for everybody involved, and let's hope that there's, swift resolution and a minimal loss of life. But it got me thinking about how unsettling that must be to have someone, attacking your home. Being in real estate, I have a different perspective, I think, than a lot of people on what a home is. I see a home in the eyes of a first-time, buyer who's super excited to start on that journey of home ownership. And you hear me talk about it all the time, the ability to build equity wealth over time. And it really gets them kind of that launching pad necessary in life. They can sell later and trade up or, trade down. And, we talk about all the stages of ownership, but a home is so much more than that. I mean, it's the place where we raise our families and we celebrate our wins, and there's a lot of joy in home. But it's also, that's where we mourn. We suffer our losses and we kind of regroup together as a family. Whatever family is to you. Whether it's you and your pets or you have a big family. Home is home, and it means so much to so many people. We celebrate the joys and we weather the storms of life there. Both literally and figuratively. I mean, how many times have you come back after a long road trip, or you go home to your parents' house for the weekend, and you flop down in that comfortable chair or in that comfortable bed, and you're at peace. That's your home, and that's being disrupted for so many people over there, and that's what kind of hit home for me. No pun intended. Is that what that disruption must mean, because home is that stable place for so many of us. So anyway, I didn't mean to get all weepy-eyed, if you will, on that. It's just home means a lot to me, and I think that's why I enjoy being a part of the real estate community and the industry, because I see what it means for so many people. And this was a super interesting week in the Mr. Mortgage team world because of that. I mean, we in just this week we had an opportunity to work with people in the three major stages of real estate ownership. We are working with a young couple, first-time buyers, and they've been renting a condo for the last 5 years, and the landlord's decided to sell the condo. And it's a super cool story. He's given them the opportunity of first right of refusal. So they're buying the place that they've lived in. But the really exciting part is he's been quite generous with the price that he offered it to them for. So they're going to move in with instant equity. And what an amazing start for them. They're not only are they going to save a little bit each month because the mortgage payment's going to be less than they're paying rent, but they're walking into an immediate equity position. So I just love those stories. So even in this crazy environment where we get so frustrated with what we perceive all the sellers to be, operating from a place of greed, here's an opportunity that both the seller and the buyer are winning. So we had that experience where we saw somebody in that first stage of home ownership, and And I really enjoy that because it's made a significant difference in my life over the years. So I appreciate seeing somebody kind of take that journey. And we've talked, over the last several shows about the importance of that. So that was a cool experience. And we also were working with a family who's capitalizing on that rec loan that you hear me talk about all the time. And they're paying off a truck and a credit card payment. And those two payments alone are almost $700 a month. So we're pulling the cash out of the property. They're paying off their consumer debt. And yes, their mortgage payment is going to go up $50 a month. However, their total monthly outflow is going down nearly $800 a month. So for them, a significant improvement in their financial life, if you will, from a monthly expense standpoint. And it couldn't come at a better time with inflation where it is and all the upward pressure on pricing. So that's kind of the second stage of ownership as people are moving up and down and using that equity for opportunity and to put out fires, as I just mentioned in the case of the rec loan. And then, lastly, we're working with a super, super nice couple who are at a stage in life where, thank God, they're healthy and they've lived a long life, but they've outlived a lot of their savings. And they're feeling the pressure of a fixed income in this inflationary environment. So you hear me talk about reverse mortgages all the time. And for this particular couple, it's a perfect opportunity to turn that equity nest egg into the cash flow that they need to live out the rest of their life comfortably. And barring some, major tragedy, there's ample equity and ample cash available for them to live out a comfortable life. So it's just, all of the news of the week just kind of got me thinking about what home really means to people and the opportunity that it provides for so many people. And I think that the news in Europe and just kind of seeing the pictures of those, young families in the bombed out condo building just made me realize, wow, that home for them is completely disrupted, and that sanctuary, I guess, is not there anymore. So that just kind of made me reflect on our industry and how cool it is, how much I appreciate to be serving our communities in real estate. So anyway, not to get sappy, I just I didn't want the show to go by without addressing what's going on over there. From the market standpoint, again, I mentioned I'm not big on geopolitics, but I do watch every single ripple in the world of finance globally and locally, and how it affects markets and what it may do to appreciation and inflation. And honestly, we thought there was going to be more of a disruption in interest rates, particularly when the news of Russia invading Ukraine was announced Thursday morning, I believe it was. We saw a little pullback in rates, and we saw the market sell off. The market dropped about 800 points. But throughout the day, we saw the market fight right back. It's almost as if, the economic world is not buying into this being a long, drawn-out process. So I think two things are happening. One is it doesn't look like it's going to drag on. And two, there's so much upward pressure in inflation and interest rates right now that even something as earth-shattering as a Russian invasion into Ukraine is not really affecting interest rates. So as I mentioned Thursday, we saw a little bit of a pullback. We were able to capitalize on that, and we got a few rate locks executed with a favorable rate. But by the end of the day, it had kind of stabilized, and Friday morning it opened, right back where it was. So, interest rates and the stock market seem to believe that, the Russian invasion is not of concern in the finance world. And I don't mean that in a humanitarian sense by any means. I do think we'll see gas prices go up and some disruption, but just purely from an interest rate play, it didn't have the effect. And now we'll watch this moving forward, but it didn't have the effect that we anticipated. So, yeah, prayers for Ukraine. Let's hope this is over soon with minimal loss of life. And as far as rates are concerned, the Freddie Mac report that came out Thursday was 3.89% with nearly 1 point in fees. So basically unchanged from the week before. So we're going to jump into a break. On the other side of this, feel free to give us a call at 561-291-8569. That's 561-298-8569. Dom and I are watching that hotline, or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. We'll be right back. Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and questions or comments can be sent to 561-291-8569 via text or telephone call. That's 561-291-8569. Or, as always, visit the website, mr.mortgage. So the good news in all of this is there's still so much scorching demand in the market. And, you know, all indications are we're here for a while. So read a couple of interesting reports in Redfin this week. And one was that nearly 70% of all offers submitted in January faced competitive offers. So it's just mind-boggling to me that there's still so much competition for properties out there. And I've got a little special surprise. I'll touch on it here in a little bit, but moving into the next segment on how we might be able to help you with that. But yeah, so much pressure in the market right now from the buy side. So 70% of all offers submitted had competitive offers submitted against them. And then I also read that listings were down year over year in January, yet sales were up. So get your mind around that for a minute, right? Less inventory, but more sales volume. And all that means is as soon as houses are hitting the market, they're going right under contract. You know, in a normal market, they might sit on the market for, 3-4 months. I hear some agents say a normal inventory is 6 months, and now it's not quite 6 days. I don't know how many of you have been to a theme park, but they have the fish food, and you put the quarter in and you spin the dial and the fish food comes out in the palm of your hand, and you lean over the rail and there's a bunch of catfish, or if you're down in the Keys, it may be tarpon. And as soon as you drop one of those little pebbles or one of those bait fish in there, there's a big explosion of catfish or tarpon consuming that dropping, if you will. And that's what's happening in the market. You know, every time a house hits the market, it's just being snapped right up. So even in the face of year over year decrease, albeit slight, in the number of listings available, the actual sales volume went up. So, but we're gonna jump into some questions. I'm gonna go to Dom. He's manning the hotline, and see if we've had anything come in. Any questions, Dom?
Yes, we just got this one from Steve in North Palm Beach. Steve is looking at a vacant lot in Jupiter Farms, and he wants to know, how hard is it for me to get a loan to buy the lot and build the house?
Hey, Steve, that's a great question. And actually, a lot of people are looking to do that right now because, especially in Loxahatchee and Jupiter Farms, in those areas, those are some of the last areas where you don't have a homeowners association. So it becomes super desirable if you want to park your boat or your RV or all your toys on the property. So a lot of people are looking to those areas and considering doing exactly what you are, purchase a lot and then engage a contractor to build them the house, which is a super cool idea, right? Because you get the house you want on the lot you want. And in this case, as I mentioned, a lot of people are looking to those western areas because of the lack of the homeowners association. So super cool idea. I wish you well with that. But to answer your question, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Actually, there's several different ways. So a lot of people get a lot loan and a land loan confused. And there's many different categories, but I'm going to cover, I guess, the main three. So in Jupiter Farms, you're certainly looking at a lot loan because it's already developed, it's platted. In some areas in Loxahatchee and Palm Beach Country Estates, there's even water and sewer available. So it's a buildable piece of land, right? All you have to do is go pull the permit and build the house. You don't have to do any of the missionary work, if you will, from a planning and zoning standpoint. So that's classed as a lot loan, which is exactly how you classed it. So perfect. Typically, you can buy that with either a construction perm loan. So you'll buy the lot, you'll already have had a contractor selected and engaged, and the lender is loaning you a percentage of the overall project, right? So your lot purchase plus your construction costs. And they're going to require you to have a certain percentage in the deal. And then we're going to discuss how to do that here in a second. But so the first way to do it is to take a construction perm loan against the lot and the construction. Now, to do that, you've already got you have to have your contractor lined up so that you can move quickly to a closing and have this done. Typically, with the construction perm process, the lender will either build in an interest reserve, so you're not making mortgage payments in the very beginning of the process, or they will charge interest only during the process to keep the payment as low as possible. So think of it as almost two loans, right? There's a construction period, and there's then the permanent or takeout financing. And you can do that with two loans, or what the most common way to do it at this point is, as mortgages have evolved, is to do a construction perm loan. So during the construction period, you are receiving draws. Your builder is receiving draws, and they submit a draw. The lender comes out and inspects the property, and it's not a building inspection. They're making sure that it's completed to the point that's been agreed upon for that draw to be released. So let's say at the slab, and the next draw may be when the shell is complete or the roof is dried in, or whatever the case may be. It's usually around 5 draws for a typical construction. So during the process, when that happens, your contractor will alert the bank that, slab's done, we're ready for draw number 1. They submit the draw request. The lender comes out and says, yes, okay, it's completed to this stage. They release the money to your builder, and at that point, there's now a payment due. It's either made in the form of the interest reserve or you're making the payment. That happens until the property is completed, and then upon CO, you have another closing. Now, you can do what's called a one-time close, or you can actually have another physical closing where that construction loan converts to whatever your mortgage is, 30-year fixed rate, 15, 5-1 adjustable, whatever mortgage product you've chosen. So that's one way to do it, right? Get the land under contract, select the builder, get the builder engaged, and construction perm loan from the beginning. The other way to do it, and what's more common, is you'll buy the lot with a lot loan. The lot loan requires usually, and it's credit score driven, and there's other considerations, but they're usually going to require between 25 and 30% down payment. And the term on a lot loan can be anywhere between, 5 and 15 years. It's all going to vary. Some lenders will put a lot loan in place with a 3-year interest-only window, and then they want you to do the construction perm loan with them to start the construction process. But you can just go out and buy a lot loan with 25% down and a 10 or 15-year term and never build on it, assuming you're buying in a neighborhood that doesn't require you to break ground in a certain amount of time. So that's another way to do it, buying the lot outright with a lot loan. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways. If you buy the lot outright and you own it for more than 1 year, you can use the appraised value of the lot as your equity in the deal. So let's say you go out and buy a lot for $100,000, and after a year it's worth, and just use round numbers, and maybe this is believable in this crazy market, it's now worth $200,000, and you want to borrow $300,000 or $400,000 to build. Let's say $400,000. Let's keep it reasonable. So the lot's worth $200,000. You're borrowing $400,000. So you have a $600,000 project. But because you've owned the lot for over a year, you can use the appraised value as your equity stake in the project. So instead of that $100,000 that you put in, the bank now gives you credit for having $200,000 in the deal. So a little more leeway. And at that point, you would use the construction perm loan with your selected builder to build the project out for you. So I hope that helps. Those are the two most common ways to do it. The other two type of land loans are raw land and undeveloped land, which are two other categories more driven towards developers and investors. They're usually no more than a 50% loan, and it requires a lot of legwork to get the project rezoned or platted for construction. But 90% of the time when people are talking about buying land, they're talking about a lot loan. So not difficult, but certainly some questions to be considered. If you have any questions regarding that or need some guidance, as always, you can reach us at 561-291-8569. That's the Anytime hotline. It rings here in the studio during the show or pushes to my office during the week. Or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. That's mr.mortgage, no .com. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, so we are back. We still have to name the announcer. We've got to give him a big masculine name because that's an amazing voice. But so I'm Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And as always, you can shoot us your questions to the Anytime hotline, 561-291-8569. That's 291-8569 or visit the website www.mr.mortgage. Remember, there's no .com, just type in mr.mortgage. So if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, but more recently, you hear me talk all the time about the necessity in this real estate market more so than ever about having a rock star team around you. And that starts with your agent. And we went into a horror story last week where that couple lost a $320,000 deposit because they didn't have the right agent. They had some bad advice. And I want to introduce you to someone here in just a second. I'm going to talk him up for a moment. It's a gentleman that I admire in the space. We're becoming friends, but he's done a really good job of crafting an offer that protects his buyer while still puts the seller at ease. And we've talked about me all the time saying you shouldn't waive contingencies. So I'm not going to go any further on it. This gentleman crafted this this technique, and I want him to share it with you. So if you're buying property, selling property, or you're an agent who needs a strategy in this market, I'd like to introduce you to Juan Alcala. Juan runs a team in Tampa as well as Detroit, and he runs his team at a very high level and serves his clients at a very high level. So I'm excited to let Juan share some of his wisdom with you today. So, hey, Juan, are you there?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your weekend with us. And you heard me on that intro. I just really want to dive in with what you're doing to protect your clients, yet still getting these offers accepted. I think you have a unique way that you're framing this inspection contingency, if you will. And I'd like to ask you just to dive into that for a bit, and let's kind of see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind intro. I appreciate that. And, when this is wisdom that I've probably taken from 10 other mentors throughout the way and just learning how to navigate these waters. So I appreciate the kind words. But, man, there's been many before us that have done this. So, but the big thing, Mark, and you're spot on right now, right? So the market is, we've been selling since 2012 when I got my license, and it's been an upswing since there. And I've never, sold through anything like this current market. And depending on where you're at, obviously that can change. But the one thing we are seeing, for buyers to get competitive, especially when they have a mortgage versus a cash offer, is how do we navigate the inspection period, which is that's the largest opportunity for a deal to fall apart, right?
Right.
And yeah, and so, sellers, and God bless them, they have the upper hand when the properties are an A or a B property. Heck, even at this point, C properties are going at that level. But they typically have the upper hand. And, it's very difficult to counsel a client to waive the right to an inspection when it's not on their best interest or their best behalf. And it's one thing if your client is an investor and has the cash and they're prepared to take the house down to the studs, and if there's a foundational issue, they can take care of it, right? But that's not most home buyers. And in this market, a lot of people they're putting all of their chips on the table to try and get into a property. And what we've been seeing in the market is this waiving inspections entirely. And as someone who cares about their clients, I have a real hard time wrapping my mind around that. Now, people are doing it, and I can't stop an adult from making that decision, but it does go against my counsel, right? And I do believe it's against their best interests because, if nothing else, we need to be aware of what's going on with the property. And then you can make a qualified decision on whether it's good to move forward or not, right? That's the best way to set up a client for success. So we looked at that, and we just couldn't in good conscience give counsel to walk away from an inspection period. So we really started taking a look at how do we approach this in a unique way that can help get these offers won. Well, we came up with this, and again, Mark, bear with me. You probably heard this from somebody else and rolled into us because I'm always looking for an angle, right? But we came up with this worry-free inspection period, which is essentially what we're doing is we're going to the seller and giving them a vote of confidence that we're not going to nickel and dime them to death, which is a major concern for most sellers, especially in a market like this where they just don't have to entertain offers like that.
Right.
So what we found is the best way up front is just to remove that mindset. If we can put them in a position where psychologically they understand where we're coming from, it really kind of opened up the door to get these offers accepted. So what we do is we use this worry-free inspection period. And what we do is we sit down with our client and we say, hey, we understand you love this property. This is your number one on the target list, and you're willing to take some risk here, right? And, they'll respond yes or no. And from that point, what we do is we sit down with the buyer and say, okay, look, we know you're willing to take a risk on this property, okay? So let's look at the inspection as a whole, because you're going to most likely be up against other offers that may be cash or conventional mortgages or FHA, all of those offers. But someone in here most likely is going to pull the plug on this inspection contingency. So we've got to put you in a situation where you have an opportunity to win. What is the number that you're comfortable, right, taking a risk on during this inspection period? And what I mean by that, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, is, is there a specific number where you can go, okay, I'm willing to accept any repairs I find up to a certain dollar amount? And that's where we really establish this goal. And typically, depending on the price point, I'll just give you an example. And our average price point in Detroit is $283,000. Our average price point in Tampa is $350,000. It's not uncommon for a buyer to say, yes, I'm willing to risk $2,500 or $5,000 or $10,000 on this inspection period. Gotcha. And what we do is we position the offer that way, right? Where we say, hey, Mr. Seller, this is a worry-free inspection. This is the language. We're offering a worry-free inspection. The buyer will not come and ask you for any repairs that don't equal the amount of X. And what that does is it eliminates that nit, the nitpicking of the buyer. And that's where a lot of sellers are really anxious, because most sellers believe that their homes are perfect.
Right.
Right. And the inspection's not going to be an issue, but we all know that that's not true. So when you start, what that looks like is, they're not going to come harass me unless there's a huge problem with my roof, or there's a huge problem with my air conditioner or furnace or foundationally. And it gives them a vote of confidence. And when you really help the listing agent understand the value of this, is like, look, my clients are clean. This is basically information only as long as the property's good. And what we really did there is we protected our client, right, from any major incident that could pop up, or any major repair that could, be in the way of standing, in their financial benefit, or really putting them in harm's way. And it eliminates that anxiety on the seller side, because it gives them the confidence that the buyer is going to move forward unless something crazy is going to happen.
That's what I love. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but that's what I absolutely love about your strategy, because I find from, my side, and I've been doing this a long time, jumped in the business initially back in '99. I find that most sellers, it's not as if they're hiding anything intentional. It's not nefarious that they want to waive the inspection. It's just they've become spoiled in this market, and it's almost become a negotiation strategy in a typical market to get the inspection done. And then, as you mentioned, start to nickel and dime the seller for either concessions or a lower sales price. So I love the fact that and that's why I wanted you to share it, because you're taking your client's best interests at heart, protecting them, yet lowering the resistance from the seller standpoint by assuring them, unless something major is uncovered, that you're not going to approach them for concessions or price reduction. Are you finding this making a significant difference in the two markets that you serve?
Yes. I mean, honestly, I believe it's gotten a lot of our offers accepted. We use strategies like video along with this, explaining this to the listing agent, because, unfortunately, we can't rely on our peers to always sell our strategies to their sellers, right? Because sometimes they just don't understand it, and that's okay, right? We introduce new things. We're always trying new things within the letter of the law. They're legal, moral, and ethical to get our clients' offers accepted. And this has even opened up the opportunity for us to work through inspection components that, again, we said we weren't going to do, and that wasn't the intent. But sometimes, as you know, we don't control our clients. Right? Buyers and sellers get to do whatever they want, right? The contract's only as good as the two people that sign it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that, because I'm just seeing so much carelessness in the industry right now, specifically on the buy side, that your strategy really stood out to me. So that I hear the music coming up. We're gonna head into the break. You can reach us at the Anytime Hotline 561-291-8569, 561-291-8569, or visit the website www.mr.mortgage. I'm going to ask Juan to hang in there with us for just a couple more minutes. We'll close out with his thoughts on the other side of this break. Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, so we are back, and I hope you found that insightful. And I wanted Juan to share that strategy with you because you can still protect your interests as a buyer and present a very attractive offer in this market. And it's these strategies that make the difference. And you hear me all the time talk about rockstar agents. I just want to thank Juan for being with us. So Juan, thank you so much for sharing that tidbit with us. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
I just want to say thanks, Mark, for allowing me to share. And yeah, what I would encourage anyone to do is, remember, we're working on behalf of our clients at the end of the day. Selling real estate is the byproduct of our service. So, let's make sure that we're serving them to the best of our abilities, and everything else will kind of take care of itself from there. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about this strategy specifically, don't hesitate. I'm an open book. We don't hide our strategies from other agents, because if we're all working to grow the industry and make it stronger, it's going to benefit all of us in the long run.
Yeah, and I love that. I think there's so much synergy between the way that we run our practices that's why I really feel I enjoy working with you, and I just felt that this would be valuable to bring you on. So if anybody has any questions for Juan, you can visit his website directly. It's juanalcala.com, and that's spelled ALCALA.com. Did I spell that correctly, Juan?
That's correct.
Perfect. juanalcala.com. And as always, just contact us here at the show. We'll get you in touch with Juan if you have questions. If you're an agent in the Tampa or Detroit area and you're hearing this show and you're considering joining a team, I know Juan runs a Rockstar team. Or if you are a consumer in either of those markets and looking for an agent to guide you through the transaction, I would strongly recommend Juan without hesitation. So, all right, brother, I appreciate you being on with us this morning. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch up very soon.
You too, brother. Be blessed.
Thank you. All right, so I hope everybody found some value in that. Again, I share all that so that we are not discouraged in this market, because we hear all the frustrating stories that buyers are not getting their offers accepted, and Juan and his strategy are proof that it's still happening out there with the right team advocating for you. So, that was great having him on. But we're going to jump right back into the standard format of the show. We're going to cover some questions. As always, if you have questions, give us a shout. 561-291-8569. 561-291-8569 is the Anytime hotline, or visit the website www.mr.mortgage. And speaking of questions, Dom's got his thumb up, so I think he has a question for us.
I do. The first question is from Jonathan from Sunrise. Jonathan said, I'm trying to buy a condo in Fort Lauderdale, but it is a co-op, and the realtor is telling me it's hard to finance.
So, interesting question. So, yes, co-ops are a bit more challenging, and I guess we should start by what is a co-op, right? A co-op versus a condo versus a planned unit development, or you'll hear it referred to as a PUD. Sometimes they all look the same, but with the ownership structure of a co-op, a corporation owns the project. So they own the entire building and all the common areas. Or a lot of times in Florida, co-ops can also be manufactured home neighborhoods. In that instance, the individual owners, if you will, don't actually own the property or the unit. They own a share in the corporation that represents their percentage of ownership of the neighborhood, if you will. So think of a co-op as one corporation owning the entire property, and the individual owners don't actually own real property. They own a share, or whatever share represents their percentage of that project. So from the lender's standpoint, it's a more difficult transaction from the foreclosure process, and they're not leaning real property. So they're not leaning your house. They have to come after you for that one share in that corporation. So oftentimes to finance a co-op, you're required to put more money down. And I guess let me back up and say there is financing available for co-ops, but not as readily available as one of the other neighborhood types that we mentioned. So typically you're going to put more money down. You will pay a slightly higher interest rate, and you'll most often have a shorter loan term. So it's unlikely that you're going to get a 30-year term. You may get a 20-year term. But your agent's correct. They are a little more difficult to finance, and it's specifically because of the ownership structure. A condo ownership structure is different in that you actually own that box, if you will. That box of air in the building is yours. So everything from the drywall in is you own it. You're responsible for maintaining it. The condo mortgage side of things is slightly more difficult in the sense that there's additional paperwork required. The condo association's finances are being scrutinized. They're making sure that there are reserves for repairs because it's a vote required to paint the building, to replace the roof. It's not as simple as you as an individual owner making those decisions and taking care of the property. So because of that, there's more scrutiny in the underwriting process of a condo from the standpoint of the board. The docs are reviewed, the budget, and so on. And the third ownership structure that I mentioned was a planned unit development, or a PUD. And those are often what we would consider a townhouse neighborhood. And townhouse gets confused. Townhouse isn't an ownership structure. It's actually a style of dwelling, if you will. So the planned unit development, you actually own a bit of land as well as the physical structure. So out of the three ownership types, those are the easier to obtain financing on, although there's adequate funding for condos as well, co-ops being the exception, as we mentioned in the beginning. But here's something interesting, and this just happened to us yesterday. Sometimes a PUD, or a planned unit development, or what looks like a planned unit development. So imagine a townhouse community. And in the old days, a townhouse community was a quad, and you had a courtyard and you all parked in a common, parking lot. Now, a lot of townhouse neighborhoods have garages, and they're more like row houses, but those are also classed as townhouses. However, those can also be condos. They're classed oftentimes as site condos. And the reason is at the time of development, and for whatever reason, the developer found it easier to develop it under the ownership structure of a condo association. So when you're looking at a townhouse neighborhood, make sure, pull the legal description, and a good agent will do this for you. And then I'm going to share with you why it's important. but pull the details from the county website on the legal description and confirm the land use code to make sure that it is a planned unit development governed by a homeowners association rather than a condo, because especially in the world of FHA, condos need to be approved. Fannie and Freddie publishes a list of approved condo associations as well as FHA. So because of that, not all of the financing may be available to that buyer. So oftentimes in the townhouse world, it's easy to confuse because, it looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. It must be a duck, right? Well, sometimes that duck is actually a condo. And we just had this happen yesterday for a property that's being purchased in Port St. Lucie. Super nice client that we're working with, and it has the land use code of a planned unit development. It lists land as part of the dwelling that's being purchased. However, the legal description and the initial documents were filed as a condo association. So there was a little bit of confusion. We dug in, we worked directly with the appraiser in this case and the underwriter and confirmed that we can move forward with it as a planned unit development. But this certainly could have gone awry had somebody interpreted the land use code or the ownership structure differently. So just know that there are distinct differences that are not always apparent. And one more reason why you want a good team surrounding you so that they can help you navigate through these questions and these unforeseen circumstances. So I hear the music sneaking up behind me. We are going to go head into this break. As always, you can reach us at 561-291-8569 or visit the website www.mr.mortgage. It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right. So we're back. I'm Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Thank you so much for joining us and coming back after that break. But anyway, the anytime hotline, 561-291-8569. You heard the announcer. That's the best way to get us. It rings here during the show or pushes to my office during the week. And we'll be happy to answer all your questions or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. That's Mr.Mortgage. So we're going to keep rolling right ahead with questions. I know some popped in. Let me throw it over to Dom, the producer. Hey, Dom, what do we have question-wise?
All right. We have Joe from Palm Beach Gardens asking, I've heard you talk about this market and you doubting that it will crash. Where are you seeing pressure in this market? It seems something's got to give.
Hey, Joe, I feel you. I hear you. It's definitely crazy out there. I know we even touched on in this show, we had Juan jump on with us and share some strategies to make offers more acceptable, which I get it. It's crazy. We're doing whatever we can to get it done. And you're right. It feels nuts. The reality is there's not really any indicators for a crash. And you've heard me say it many times before. I think we're going to move into a flat, certainly a more subdued, but at very least, or very worst rather, a flat appreciation cycle. So I guess to dig into that question and be totally fair and transparent, if I'm seeing one place that there's a lot of pressure on the market, that there's not a lot we can do about it, right? Because the rest is just math. We can figure what the taxes are going to be. We can figure what the mortgage payment's going to be, the interest rates. All of that is math. But we're seeing a lot of pressure on the insurance side of things. So insurance premiums are much higher now than they have been any time in the past. And, we're seeing insurers pull out of the state because of risk. And there's a lot of reasons why that's happening, and we won't go into them on this show. I've got a guest lined up for the future that the guy's a guru in the insurance world, and he's a certified instructor on a state level, so he's got a high level of understanding, and we're going to dig into insurance. But on the insurance side of things, I do see that pressuring the market. If there's an anchor kind of slowing people down, it's the surprise policy number that they're receiving, and it's for a lot of reasons. I mean, we abused insurance in Florida over the recent years. We've all we've heard the stories about people suing their insurance company or the roofing contractor for a new roof, and there was legislation entered for all of that. And I'm neither here nor there on the topic. I mean, I do think there needs to be something done from an insurance standpoint in the state to make it more obtainable and more affordable. But if I have to acknowledge a pressure that I didn't anticipate moving into this market, it's insurance. And the replacement costs of properties have gone up as the construction costs have gone up, and full replacement cost on a property might be 30 or 40% higher now than it was as recently as 2 years ago, just because of the demand on materials and labor costs. So there's so many reasons why insurance is, or we're feeling the squeeze from the insurance companies. So I know we could go deep into that for a long time, and I don't want to do that. But to answer your question, Joe, if there's one place I'm seeing pressure that might slow the market, it's on the insurance side. Rates are still ridiculously low by historic standards. Money's super affordable. Appreciation looks like it's here. So I don't see pressure from the opportunity standpoint. I don't see pressure from the cost of money standpoint, but I do see a little pressure from the insurance standpoint of things. So all that being said, you know how I feel about real estate. We touched on it in the opening segment. I mean, buying a house starts your path for equity wealth. I think it still makes sense. It certainly makes sense at these interest rate environments. And we are here and happy to answer any of your questions, any of your concerns. I always talk about the need to have a good team. I brought Juan on to share some of his strategies. I know his team are all rock stars. I welcome the opportunity to get you in touch with somebody that can help on any level, appraisals, insurance, and certainly agents. And I welcome the opportunity for my team to assist you on the mortgage side. So any questions, give us a shout, 561-291-8569. We will get you to the person that can help you, especially if you're looking for a good agent or a good mortgage broker. We're here and happy to help. 561-291-8569 is the anytime hotline. Or please feel free to visit the website, www.mr.mortgage. That's mr.mortgage, no .com. And yeah, check out the podcast. We're everywhere now. It's pretty wild. Even just Google the Mr. Mortgage Show. We'll pop up. We're on a lot of podcast networks, so there's lots of ways to get us when we're not on the air. Thanks.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.